Hey, so how's it going? Welcome back to the Pancreatic Cancer channel. And I'm looking at my little thing here. Let's see. Oh, I had a little cover on my on my camera, but I see that it was against the wrong thing. Let's see where. There you are. Anyway. Let's get back to what we were going to do. So it's been a while since I've done a entry here, and my apologies. A lot of things have been going on. I'm way behind in things that I have to share, but I wanted to share this one um, tonight, because I recently went to an event with a bunch of old colleagues, a bunch of people, some who knew that I have cancer, and then some who didn't know. And so it was always kind of this weird thing of like, hey, you don't want to go to a party and go, hey, everybody, how's it going? I have cancer, because a party is a party, and it was kind of on the upswing as far as spirits go. And also, I think I'd mentioned in some other videos that controlling the message, I think, is really important, because it can get out of hand, and then kind of people treat you differently, and so it's better when you kind of control it. So in this case, I went to this party. It was great. I saw all these old friends, and then I have some friends there that knew that I had cancer, and everybody was kind of like, hey, how are you doing? And I tell them, hey, I'm doing this and that, and everything's great. And they might have said, oh, well, I'm glad you're here. And, kind of a mild mention of like, I know you're sick, but it's good to see your face. And then there were a couple people who kind of do this thing that is just torturous. And what they do is they have this kind of insistence on like, hey, how are you doing? And you respond, hey, I'm doing great. I've been working on this. I've been working on that. Life is good. And then they do this thing where they look at you and they go, no, but really, how are you doing? And it's kind of like this weird pitch of like, no, tell me like the dark part of, your illness. Like, I know you're sick, so there's got to be something that's really bad happening to you. And that is just not the way to approach people who have cancer, because number one, we don't want to kind of like live our lives being the friend who has cancer. We'd rather be like your friend who I used to work with, or my friend who loves hot rods, or my friend who's a championship skier, but not my friend who has cancer, because that kind of pigeonholes us into this illness, and it becomes all about this thing that we already have to deal a lot with, right? When you have cancer, you're going to, your chemotherapy sessions, you're going to endless doctor appointments, and other stuff comes up because it's kind of a snowball effect. I have to admit, like, you're doing good and then something knocks you down, and you go to the doctor for this, and you're like, I got this now, and this thing showed up. And so the last thing you want to do is just have that be the constant focus of your life, because it doesn't make you feel better. What does make you feel better is living your life as you always have, which is doing all the good things that make you feel good, hanging out with your friends, seeing your family, traveling, doing whatever it is that you can that makes you feel good. That's where you want to focus things. So having those friends who constantly want to kind of like inquire about what's the dark parts of what's going on with you, is they're like, without realizing it, they're not being compassionate, and they're not helping in any way, shape, or form, even though they're kind of offering this thing of like, hey, you can tell me, because you can tell me like how bad you feel or whatever. And look, when you want to do that, you will. And nobody should really kind of like not, pressure you or prompt you to do that, because what they don't know, and I guess this is a video that really people who don't have cancer should watch, is that if you feel bad, you're going to tell people, and you find the right moment of when you feel like saying that, and you choose it, not them. So don't allow yourself to fall into that trap of those people who are constantly wanting to say, no, really, how do you feel? One of the things that happened to me at this party is a friend who, she's a wonderful friend, and I'm grateful to have her in my life. But, I see her maybe, God, like in the last 3 years, maybe I've seen her 3 times or twice. And she knows that I got sick, and I was happy to talk with her about it. However, instead of like us just kind of hanging out at the party, she kind of waits until I go up to the food table. And I think I've mentioned before, like my cancer is that it's in my pancreas, but it's messed up my stomach so that I can't really eat socially. Although I have figured out that I can kind of hang out, and then at the tail end of the party or event, I can eat a little bit, and then I have about 30 minutes to an hour before I get sick, especially if I eat something very small and light. So, there's a killer spread at this event. It's an outdoor barbecue, and I'm like taking in all the aromas, and it's like, this is awesome. And I'm going up there, and I'm putting a little bit of salmon, and I'm kind of making a plate. Like I'm kind of doing a little bit of snacking, and then I'm making a plate because I'm like, I'm going to take this home and chow down when I get home. And the first thing she does is come up to me and say, hey, I see, good thing I see you're making yourself a plate so that when you have, a real appetite, you can eat. And it's like, like, I have an appetite. I have an appetite now. I never have a problem with an appetite. That's not the problem with me and eating. And I know she's being kind in a way, but she's making this assumption. And the kindness is, I guess, by what? Somehow kind of commiserating with me or whatever. But I don't really take that as kindness. I kind of take it as like a pain in the ass, because really, if you want to, help your friends who have cancer, talk to them, treat them like you've always treated them. Don't focus on the cancer all the time. They'll tell you when they want to talk about cancer, they don't want to be your friend with cancer. And, when she told me that, I was like, oh, yeah, haha. And then she's like, I know how it is. And it's like, no, you don't know how it is because you don't have cancer. And then she's like, but it's good to see you, wanting to have that to eat. And it's just like, I turned to her and said, I don't really focus on that. And that is the truth. I don't focus on having cancer and whether I can eat or not eat, or whether I have hunger or I don't have hunger. And it's like when you were at a party, come up and talk to me like we're at a bloody party. Let's have party talk. Why do you got to come up and just constantly focus on the being sick part? And then, it turns my switch off. It makes the shields go up, and it makes me shut down because I just don't want to hang out with people that constantly want to remind me that I have cancer. I mean, I know, they know if I've told them, and that's enough. And when you feel bad or whatever you want to express yourself, you can, but you don't need to be constantly prompted for that, And it's like, what do people get out of knowing that you're sick? Are you telling them that, you vomit after you eat, or some kind of vile, thing that you're debased by, or that, some indignity that you have to suffer through your illness? Like, does that make them feel better? Or I don't know. It's just like, it's unnecessary. It's like, focus on the good. Focus on what's good. Like, that's what sustains us, is us going beyond that. Because when you get a cold, yes, you get miserable and you tell people you have a cold, but then you don't forever become that person with a cold. Like, to be kind of marked that way is just, it sucks, man. It's horrible. And then my other friends, they're great friends and they're wonderful. And they're just like, hey, so, anytime you need this, just letting you know anytime. It's like, okay, you already told me 100 bloody times that you can help me out, and I'm grateful for that, but you don't have to effing remind me every single time I see you. I mean, was kind of mad about it because I don't need to be constantly reminded. Like I'm so grateful that I mean, look, I know there's a lot of people out there who they get sick and they don't have the big, huge, massive group of friends that I have and the awesome family members that I have. But to be continuously reminded that, you know, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. And hey, you can rely on me. It's like, you can tell me a couple times and that's enough. And now let's just be as we always have been. Let's embrace and hug each other, not because we think that I'm going to die in a month, but let's just do it because we love each other, whether we're going to live a month or we're going to live 10 years, because that's what it's all about. And you don't know, you can't predict the future. And in all honesty, you might get hit by a car tomorrow and I'm still going to be here and you're going to be in the afterlife thinking, geez Louise, I thought my friend with cancer was going to go before me. I don't know. It might not happen that way. It might happen differently. So let's focus on the positive. So I guess that's the message of this thing. It's like, share with your friends that it's like, hey, I appreciate everything. You told me once, you don't have to remind me every time you see me. Let's focus on the positive because that's what makes me feel good. That's what uplifts my spirits. And, I have a friend of mine, she's an ex-girlfriend, and she comes by every once in a while. She calls me. I mean, she had been doing that before anyway, and she just never skips a beat. It's just the same as it has always been. And every time she comes by, it's like somebody has like stuck a syringe in me and like pushed in all this like uplifting medicine because I feel great every time she comes by because she's so awesome and she's a friend and we behave like friends and we laugh and we bullshit and joke just the way we always have. And she's not constantly saying, you have cancer. Oh, it's going to be the end soon. I mean, it's just like, how terrible is that to just constantly be reminded of it? Stop reminding your friends with cancer that they have cancer. And, get off of it. Like, you're going to help. They know you're there to help. And trust me, when we need help, we will reach out because we know who our friends are. So if you're a friend of a person who has cancer, don't feel like you have to continuously remind them they have cancer. And especially when you go to a party, don't make the party all about them having cancer because they were, the whole focus of this particular party was we were getting together with old colleagues and friends. And it was like, yeah, that's good. And I told a few people that I was sick, but I didn't go into it really in depth. I just kind of cursorily told them like, hey, I got this thing and later on we'll talk more about it. But right now let's just hang out. And that works so much better. So if you don't have cancer and you have a friend who has cancer, remember, don't remind them every time you see them that they have cancer or that you're there for them. Tell them once you're there for them, tell them twice, and it's good. And then just treat them as your friend, as you always have. Don't put them in this category as your friend with cancer and make every single meeting about you being sick because it fucking sucks. If every time you come to see me, you're coming to bring me food because I mean, it's great, bring me food, but it's at the same time, it's like if it's just to kind of do something like that, like you're a Meals on Wheels kind of visitor, it's just like, what happened to the friend that I had that was like, the person that I could talk to about all this other stuff? Because that's what happens in our lives is all the other stuff. Being sick is just a part of it, but it's not all of it. And that's really what we rely on family and friends for, is all of life, not just one little slice of it. So if you're a person who has cancer, let people know that you're grateful for their concern, you're grateful for their help, but they don't have to continuously remind you that you have cancer, because it kind of hurts, when you get treated that way. You just like, oh, I'm going to see them, and all they're going to do is talk about how sick I am and how they know people that are sick, and they're going to tell me stories of how this other friend or family members of theirs that is dying of cancer and how it was hard on them and all this stuff. It's like, because it's like, okay, that's, I don't know, like you become this like weird therapy person for them, as opposed to just your friend when they used to come over and like hang out and sit down and, I don't know, have a cigarette or drink a glass of wine, and you could talk about, somebody's latest love or the last movie that you saw or some kind of bullshit that's going on at work. That's way more interesting than talking about being sick all the time. So don't be that person that says, "How are you doing?" No, really, how are you doing? Because that second, really, how are you doing? It's just the person that's listening to that second question. They're in their head. They're just like, "Go away, get away from me," because it's just, here we go. You want to know about my misery? Like, okay, let me pull some dark, thing that's happened to me, some misery or indignity that I have to suffer, so that you can be like, oh, wow, that's really terrible, And I don't know if that makes other people feel good. I think it's not Schadenfreude, but it's more of like how they say that people kind of, if they hear about somebody else feeling bad or something bad happening to them, somehow they feel better about themselves, because they're like, at least that's not me. I'm not the guy who has cancer, and I don't have to deal with that. So today is a good day. And don't make your friend that person that, that would uplift you because their life is shittier than yours. I hope this is not a mean podcast, because I try to be, a mean episode, because I try to be really positive, but I feel strongly about this one, we can talk about deep stuff, and especially, I did talk with a friend, and she had suffered some real tragedy in her life, and I could tell that she was coming out of it. And her and I had some stuff that I'm gonna get together with her and have some tea. I'm gonna invite her over, and I want to talk with her, because there's something that we can share there. And I'm excited to actually do that. And with her, I will talk about some of those things, because there's purpose and reason there. But I know that she's not going to come to me every time I see her and say, "No, really, how are you feeling? Tell me like how shitty you feel, or tell me like the worst thing that's happening to you right now." Because when it comes to cancer, you can find a lot of that, and that's not what cancer patients look for. We're looking to be normal, and we're looking for the escape, or we're looking just to live our lives. We're looking for normalcy. And that's something that I wanted from the very beginning. It's like normalcy. I want to like make peace with it early on, and then just be normal. And I'm coming up on a year with it. So it's kind of like, okay, I've had a year, sometimes people don't live that long. If I make it to a year, that's great, But if not, I want to at least be able to say, well, these times that I have spent living this last part of my life, I was able to live it as I wanted to, doing the stuff that I love to do and hanging out with my friends, as opposed to saying, yeah, I hung out the entire time talking about how miserable I feel and recounting to those people who asked me that second question, No, how do you really feel about the crappy things that have occurred to me and are happening to my body or to my mind from, having that weight, that burden of being sick. So look on the bright side, the silver lining in the cloud, the goodness in life. Like that's where we want to be. I mean, look, things can always get worse. You don't need people to remind you how bad they are or how they can be worse or how they're going to get worse. You just accept the fact that they can be worse and you try to look for the goodness in life and let those people around you that love you and that have good intention, let them know that that's where you want to go. And maybe they'll learn something out of that, like maybe they'll learn that what they're doing is not a good idea for their friend who they love so much who has cancer, but also for themselves, because I think it's really a life lesson, because it doesn't apply just to having cancer, it applies to everything in life. It's like, look for the goodness, in people and in situations and embrace that, hold that, like find those moments of peace and make them a part of your existence. And you'll find that your existence is much better because of that. So, yeah, I should have been some kind of guru or something in life. Maybe I shouldn't have been an artist. I should have done something else because I've always had that attitude that I want to find what's good. And even though I can explore the dark things, I always come back to the light. And yeah, so that's it. Have a great day. And I'll be making some more videos about some of the things that have been happening that ain't so great and some of the good things. So see you later.